Hello there, and welcome to the I Never Knew podcast, also known as Inc. This show dives into the life experiences of people who have been through it all and have come through the other side stronger, better, and triumphant. Each story is raw, authentic, and, at times, heartbreaking. One thing joins it all together: the fact that the stories can help the listener learn and grow. Hosted by life coach Maureen, she sits down each episode with a new guest who will empower the listener to set out on their self-discovery journey and start to heal. Now you'll be joined by Maureen and her special guest. Please enjoy the show.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to I Never Knew But My Dog Did podcast. I am Maureen Scanlon, or Life Coach Maureen, as you all know me. I am so happy to have everyone here today. It is a Friday, a fabulous Friday, and when it releases, it'll be a wonderful Wednesday. But what better way to end my week but with my next two guests? I am so excited. When they reached out, I just was like, yeah, you're my people. Like we've been there, we've done that. We were talking offline, and I said, you know what? We got to be experts because of what we have been through. And so their story is very similar to mine. We have a passion for relationships and couples and how to really find that true love by loving yourself first. And can't wait to introduce you to them. This is Mark and Lynetta. And Mark and Lynetta both have backgrounds with family trauma, including violent dads with sexually weird behavior from both parents. And they were seeking answers in their Western religions, Jehovah's Witness and Orthodox Judaism. And both of them had many unfulfilling relationships, as a lot of us have. Eventually, they both left their religions and discovered their own spirituality. They left their previous relationships and communities and created the best love relationship ever. They healed their traumas and learned the best tools to support others to do the same. And they are nomads, and they enjoy a joyous life traveling in their RV, which is like a lot of our dream to do, and just go see the world and have fun. And they spend as much time in nature as possible, especially forests and mountains when it's warm out. So welcome, my friends, Mark and Lynetta.
Thank you, Maureen.
Thank you, Maureen, so much for having us.
I'm really high energy. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, we love that. Yes, you're bubbly.
You're not allowed to be low energy here, because I'm going to just grab you and get that out of you. I have to say, the one thing that I read in the little questionnaire that I send out to get to know my guests, and I don't always read this line or this question, but this is the thing that hit me the most, where I said, we are in alignment and we are synchronized. I asked, what is the one thing you never knew that you know now and can help others experiencing the same struggle? And your answer is, we both never knew we could be totally loved for who we are instead of what we can offer others. I absolutely love that. So in the spirit of I never knew, we talk about your stories and we talk about where you came from. So we're going to start with Lynetta. Tell me everything from, and it can be from childhood on up. We've got all the time in the world. So let me know what's going on with your story and what brought you to be where you are today.
Well, I didn't know when I was younger that our family was different. I thought that all families were the way our family was. And I struggled through it because I really didn't have a voice. I was to be seen and not heard. I heard that a lot. Did you hear that when you were younger?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I wanted to be in on the adult conversations, but when I heard to be seen and not heard, I got that my voice doesn't matter, and that I better, if I want to be with people, I better be quiet and listen, and I learned how to kind of make myself invisible and small And I wanted to be around the adults, so that was the only way I could do that. And then around my dad could have a hot temper, and that could go off at any time. So I was very good at watching what they call emotional intelligence. Where I can read the face, and I can spot it a mile away if somebody's starting to get angry.
Yeah.
And I could spot it when he was starting to get angry. So I would make myself aware of where the bathroom was. If I were somewhere else, or if we were at a restaurant, I'd know where the bathroom was. And then I would run to the bathroom to hide. And those were, it was very terrifying to have the person that I looked up to. And he also played with me. So there were times when it was really fun. So it was really hard to love him and look up to him and also be terrified of him at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, just those mixed signals and always sort of being on guard, like, it kind of, it molds us when we're adults. It's like, okay, things are really good, but I'm waiting for that shoe to drop. And that's when we tend to, as adults be catastrophizers.
Right.
Can't even say that word, but that's what happens is like, I'm having a really good time, but I know it's not going to last. And I know a lot of people that I coach are like, well, I can't enjoy things because I know bad things are going to come. And that's pretty prevalent from what you went through. You and I were different, where in my family, they wanted me to be seen and not heard, but my rebellion was to be heard. And so I would be the one that was like showy and acted out. And in school, I got straight A's, but the teachers always said she talks too much. So my rebellion was like, see me, like pay attention to me, like give me love. And like I think when you're an old soul too, I think you are intuitive and perceptive to how to work people in your life, your relatives. And when you said, I thought everybody was like my family, well, you don't know any different when you're a kid. That's just your norm. How are you supposed to know any different? Right. So I love your story. So as you grew into an adult or a teenager, tell me about how this affected relationships for you.
Right. So as I grew older, I was attracted, what I call, attraction, because when people say there's chemistry or attraction, I've really looked into that because I was attracted to only guys that were really dysfunctional, like alcoholics, addicts, guys that go to prison, and I'm like, wow, it was one after the other. And that attraction I had, now I know that attraction comes from wanting to have the patterns of my family and replay those out again. And in a way, trying to resolve it through this new person, thinking that I can fix this. I can make this better. If I'm good, if I'm a really good girlfriend or wife, then he will change.
I had never, you just like knocked me over with a feather. I had never thought of that at all in my own, because I did the same thing. I was with narcissists. I married an alcoholic and he was a drug addict. I was 18 when I got married. What did I know? Domestic violence, sexual abuse, all of it. And I had heard a TED Talk of a psychologist who said, we seek the suffering we know.
Yes.
And that made sense. What you just said, you're like, but I hadn't thought of what you just said, which is I can fix my childhood through these people. And I'd always thought, well, I was just a fixer and I got my validity through fixing and making people better. That's where my value was, not in who I was, but what I could do for you, how I can fix you and make you need me.
Yes. Yes, that was key too. I would find out what is the thing they really need, and I'd make sure I was that.
Yes.
And then they'll stick around, right?
Right.
No.
Which is weird because we were really the antithesis of a narcissist, because narcissists figure out what they can do to make you do things for them. And it's odd when you're a codependent where you're like, I've got to figure out what I can do to make them love me.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love that. So
Yeah.
I'm going to move to Mark,
Yeah.
and we're going to go
Yeah.
between the two of you. But I knew it.
Absolutely.
Did I not tell you we were aligned? I knew
We
it.
are so aligned. We are.
All right, Mark. So you're up on the hot seat here. So tell me about your background and what was interesting and different for you in your growing up and your family dynamic.
So, like Lynetta, my dad could turn violent. And, Lynetta, to a large extent, has had a see me desire. And she actually likes to be showy at times and dress up, even dramatic. In fact, she's thinking of taking some drama classes, not that she needs it.
I get it. I get it.
I'm like, more of this, honey? Really?
You're like, you could be teaching the class. I don't know why you're taking the class.
Exactly. Now, for me, on the other hand, I learned that being seen or noticed was a bad idea. So I wanted to be as inconspicuous as possible. And in fact, it even, like, I remember eventually I got into like folk dancing when I went to college. And I remember when I first started dancing, it was like I would move the bottom of my body. I would do whatever the steps were, but literally the top of my body was rigid because I had this like, don't be noticed, like, don't move your hands or anything because you don't want to be seen because nothing good will come from it. So I kind of picked up don't be seen and also don't speak up. In fact, most of my life I've dealt with TMJ because I actually at one point remember saying to myself, right before a fight happened at our kitchen table, like, keep your mouth shut. Don't, even though your mom's asking you what's going on, don't answer because something bad's going to happen. You're going to get the worst of it, which is what happens.
Wow.
So I've lifelong had that. Yeah.
Like literally clenching your jaw shut, like forcing your jaw shut because if I speak out, I know this is detrimental to me. And so you learned not to speak your truth, that speaking my truth and being honest is not good for me.
No. And in fact, not only did I have TMJ, but unfortunately, the clenching ground away most of my molars. So, like in my mouth, I've literally got one lower molar left.
Wow.
Because they cracked from all the tension. Now, this is even though on the consciousness level, I've done a lot of work. I don't have any more conscious anger at either of my parents. And I just do have gratitude on many levels, including the spiritual level, and understand why this was all created. But there's still like body stuff. Both of us are still getting out. That's still causing problems, if you will.
Yeah. I mean, it's at a deep level, it's in those cells. And, there's like a lot of that ancestral cycle that, I had heard something, I think I had spoken with one of my guests who said something so profound. And she said, did you ever think, Maureen, that you're doing the work that your ancestors couldn't? And if you think we're in this time-space reality where we're allowed to be who we are and speak our minds, and I can do a podcast and talk to people and be completely open. But think about going back in time. Our grandparents couldn't do that. Our great-grandparents and especially women, throughout history, you weren't allowed to be dramatic like me and Lynetta. You weren't allowed to be showy. You'd get labeled or, even in medieval times, you'd have to put like a mask on if you were a talker. And so that's so fascinating to me how it manifests. And we know that it always does emotionally, mentally, always physically manifest.
In the body.
Yes, I love that. So how did you leave the religious ideas and beliefs that I'm sure were imparted on you by your families and guilted onto you to go get this bigger understanding spiritually to finally be free of these traumas?
Well, we had a little difference. Lynetta's family, when she was relatively young, joined Jehovah's Witness. So she was kind of brought up in it. Whereas for me, my family was nominally Jewish. Like I hardly knew it really until my bar mitzvah. And then all of a sudden things changed a little. And it actually wasn't really until college when I decided to pursue it because I was getting more interested in spiritual matters. And I figured I would start with my own Judaism first. So I did like 8 years of studying, got actually ordained as a rabbi, but still hadn't gotten most of the answers I was seeking. So I ended up living as a religious Jew for about 30 years in different communities. But I was still kind of doing spiritual searching on the side, if you will. And for a while, I kind of made everything kind of work. Like, okay, my Jewish stuff, yeah, this works. And I can interleave some of the spiritual things I've been studying. And that worked for a while. And then at a certain point, I met a certain belief where it was like, oh, these two won't go together. If I hold this, I can't hold this anymore. And that's when I started to release myself from living life as a religious Jew, even though there's some stuff I still, hold dear in my heart. The whole, especially the whole Western idea of God, that both of us have discarded.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I love that you say that, and I think it's always sort of this evolution when I meet people who are spiritual and they've released sort of the traditional beliefs of faith. And I was raised, my father was atheist, my mother was Catholic. There was no religion in our house. Like we didn't even know. And I, like you, have that gratitude that they never imparted any of that on me. And so I was kind of free to make this choice. My grandparents were Lutheran and I adored them. And they were like the ones that showed me love and unconditional love. And so I was like, oh, well, this must be love. So Christianity came a big part of my life until, just like you, I went, wait a minute, there's this thing, this extra piece over here, and it's not fitting with this. And I feel like everyone reaches that point, at a certain time in their, or at a specific time, and some never do. Some just are where they are, and they stay in that belief, and it works for them. And I feel like if it works for you, anything you believe in is great. If that works for you and it's giving you the best life possible.
Yeah.
So what were your relationships like, Mark? What brought you to Lynetta and the things that you've discovered together? And I can't wait to hear your story of how you met and just kind of had this aha moment, like, oh, we get each other. Like I can see it in your face. I just twin flames, 1,000,000%. We've known each other 100 lifetimes. I could just,
Yeah.
I see it because you look
This
at
is
each other.
true.
Yeah, you look at each other like my husband and I do. It's just like, I get you. I don't have to say it. I just,
Yeah.
I get you.
100% true.
Yeah.
So how did you get brought to this point where you and Lynetta met?
Well, both of us had previously been married and had several long-term relationships, either before or after that. And neither of us had really found everything we really wanted. And in fact, I'd say the most important thing we wanted was somebody who was really on the spiritual path, who was doing their inner work. That was probably the most important to both of us, and why we both left previous relationships. And in fact, I remember when I had a previous relationship that was ending, I looked myself in the mirror and I actually said, you're a great catch. I literally pointed at myself. And I said, if it's not this one, it's going to be somebody better. And the one I'm going to have is going to be both loving and powerful. Now, I had loving, but what I really meant by powerful was somebody who was totally willing to do their inner work, to look at everything, not do any finger pointing, and own all the inside stuff as their own, and then be willing to address it. And certainly willing to support each other. And I honestly, when I made that declaration, I didn't know what that would look like, but I just decided that's what I was going to have. And there was another relationship I had before I met Lynetta, and it was nice, but it wasn't on this level. And in fact, I was planning on staying with this woman. I was with her for about 1.5 years, and it was a lovely relationship. But then my intuition started telling me that I had to break up with her, even though I had no reason I could think of. It was a lovely relationship. There was nothing wrong. We got along great. We had a good time together. But I had this nagging thing in the back of my head that just kept saying, no, you can't stay with her. And then finally, at one point, I woke up and there were literally tears in my eyes because I realized I needed to break up. And I told her we needed to stop seeing each other. And I didn't know why. And she's like, is there something we can work on? And I told her I'd be lying if I knew why. We just have to stop. And I hated it because it was just lovely all the way around. And I was kind of a madman for a couple months after that. I was kind of really kicking myself. Why did you do that? There was nothing wrong. She was lovely, you know, everything.
Yeah.
And then 2 months later, I met Lynetta. And then I understood why I had to break up.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to put into words. It's like you just know. And it's heartbreaking to say that to someone. And especially coming from backgrounds where we've had these dysfunctional relationships, and then you have one that doesn't have this apparent problem, right?
Right.
You're like, I look like a jerk for doing this, and I can't tell you why.
I know. I felt terrible.
Yeah.
I couldn't even say, hey, it's because you're blah, 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 or I'm whatever. I had nothing to say.
I know it goes back to that. It's not you, it's me. And there's nothing I can say. And I know when I finally was healthy and I finally had to get to a point, and I talk on, you know, my whole brand is about how the dogs taught me unconditional love. And I realized I didn't unconditionally love myself. And I remember finally learning to be my own best friend and saying, you know, being able to go on a date and sit in front of someone thinking, I am the best thing since sliced bread. Do you know what a privilege it is to sit across from me? When I came from this hurt little girl who was like, are you going to love me? What can I do to make you love me? It's, you know, insane. But I love the honesty, but it's something in us that just says, you know what you need. You just don't know it yet. You just haven't found it yet. And it's hard. So Lynetta, when you guys coach clients that come to you and they say, I need to find my love, I need to find this person, I need to in my coaching, I say you have to attract it. I say you don't go out looking for it. So to attract it, be your best self, be at the highest vibration and healing and level and self-love you can. What do you tell couples, and what is like the first step? If I came to you, my younger self, and I'm like, Lynetta, I don't understand. I just, God, I always say, you get the same person with a different face until you heal that. So if I come to Lynetta and say, I just keep getting the same person with a different face, I just don't know what I'm doing wrong. What do you guys start with? What does your program and your coaching look like? How do you start helping people?
Well, we have 4 steps that we take people through, and identifying first what is in the way is one of the very first steps. So for me, and really, I think we, you know, from our own experience, we found out what that means is to find out that the person that I've always been looking for has been just a repeat pattern over and over again of my family dynamic, and becoming aware of that, and then choosing to listen to that wounded self and embrace and acknowledge, yes, I know that you were really trying so hard to be loved by your parents, or loved by this relationship and loved by this one. But I'm the one I'm gonna be your parent. I'm your mom. I'm your dad to your inner child. And you give your younger self that love, that deep love. And then, you know, acknowledgements are so powerful. We find that almost anything that we call a block, that's blocking you from attracting your beloved, is really something that needs to be seen, heard, and embraced. And once it's heard and acknowledged, and you reparent yourself in that way and become your own lover, your own beloved, the one that you're seeking is seeking you. Have you ever heard that? Like,
yes,
whatever you're seeking is seeking you. Well, that's acknowledging, like when Mark came to the point where he looked in the mirror and said, "You're a great catch." That was him getting his own greatness and seeing, and like you said, what a privilege it is to sit across from you. You got your own greatness. And
Yeah.
that's one of the most important things, is for us to get how amazing we are, and what a privilege it would be for that other person to be with us. And yeah, so that's
I just I love the reparent yourself. That just hit me. And like you said, what's in the way? What are the blockages of these repeated patterns? I think you're right. It's because it's like anything, you have to face whatever it is, whether it's a fear, it's anxiety, it's trauma, it's hurt, it's pain. It doesn't just disintegrate and go away and float away. It goes somewhere, whether it shows itself in our health issues or emotional,
financial,
this
even
financial. Yes, your relationship with money, that hanging on to that for security because you didn't have that security, in a relationship or as a child. I think that's beautiful, and I think that's key. Is acknowledging that, like you said, and embracing it, because that's a hard thing to do. Like, most people hang on to this anger. And you and you both can probably relate to this. A lot of my clients make it their identity. If I let go of this anger, this is what has fueled me all these years. This is what has made me so strong and independent. I remember I had that attitude, like, I'm a strong single woman and I'm a single mom. I can do this on my own. It was
you're a survivor.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's great to be mad. It was great to be mad, because being mad was easier than being sad and being disappointed in myself. So do you find that that's something really common, that the anger is one of the biggest blockages that stands in the way?
Well, anger is actually, if there's an emotional scale, that if you can Google this, and anger is much higher up than, like, say, apathy. Apathy would be at the very lowest scale. And anger is saying, what is the anger really saying? If you listen underneath, it's saying, this shouldn't be like this. I should not have been treated like this. And there's an anger about that. And once you listen to what the anger is saying, and you say, of course, honey, of course you felt like this. This should not have happened, because you know deep inside that you're precious and that it's a privilege to be with you. Once you acknowledge the anger turns then into, oh, I'm being seen, I'm being heard, I'm being embraced. And then the anger dissolves. So the anger is an indicator that there's a story to tell that hasn't been heard, and it's time to listen.
I really love that. And there's like this freeing, and most of us hopefully will experience, these moments of releasing and letting go of those past hurts and traumas. But there's like this moment I remember, like with my parents, I remember wanting their validation for my successes. And, all these years I was criticized for my choices, my decisions, my failed marriages, and, all those things. And I wanted it. And I would look for this validation. And I remember there was a moment that just hit me. I was just talking to my parents, and in my mind, I heard, they're oblivious. And that was the most freeing moment for me to let go of anger. It was like, it's not that they're trying to hurt you. They're unaware of you even having pain or needing these things. So if they're unaware of your needs, it's your job to fulfill those needs. You don't need that validation anymore. That's freeing, right?
Yes. I'm very visual, so I will like cut myself out of the scene and put a rock there and see it playing out, and they're doing it to the rock. It's just like, oh, it's not personal to me.
That's a really good dissociation method right there. I always tell people, especially reactionary people, I'll always say, okay, if this were your best friend having this conversation, I want you to rise above and I want you to look at this conversation. Would you still react the same way? And I love taking it out and putting the rock there. And it's so true. 99% of what people are doing has nothing to do with us.
Nothing to do with us.
It's all what they've been through and what they're still going through in their own healing. So Mark wrote a book, and we're going to address both of it. You both wrote just a fantastic book that I cannot wait to hear. So Mark, we're going to address yours first, 3 Doors to the Soul. Tell us about your book, how you came up with the idea, and what it's all about.
So the book was really my spiritual search. And I'd say it probably started back, it was either college or mid-high school when I used to read Reader's Digest. And there was a section in there, they would do a condensed book every month. And there was one in there, Life After Life from Dr. Raymond Moody. And Raymond Moody was a surgeon, and he found a lot of people after surgery would say, hey, this weird thing happened when I almost died on the table or whatever. And they would share things that they remembered that were otherworldly, if you will. And he kind of didn't know what to do with it for a while. And then he started studying, and he started to believe that they were having, what came to be called near-death experiences, and were experiencing something beyond the purely physical realm. And that just clicked with me. It's like I was kind of lit up from then on in my life. So I kind of, so I really wanted to know more. And in college, I started getting more interested in my Judaism. So I started looking there to see if I could I really wanted to get like the big picture, like really, what's it all about? Who are we? Why are we here? Is there a God? What's this God like? What's the world about? All of this. Do we have a purpose, a task, et cetera, et cetera? And so that's why I went to rabbinical school, and I got like bits and pieces of useful things. Like there were some Hasidic stories that would kind of give you some glimpses or certain teachings, but mostly all I had were little bits and pieces. And so afterwards, that's why I didn't decide to become a rabbi, because I wasn't fully enrolled in everything I had learned. But I lived a religious life for about 30 years. And I just kept, my ears open. Sometimes people would recommend things. Eventually, I came to Many Lives, Many Masters about near-death experiences. And I really dove into that because I felt like that was giving a glimpse of the other side, like more to life. And then the biggest thing I read was 2 books from Dr. Michael Newton, Journey of Souls and Destiny of Souls, where he would use hypnosis, just like in Many Lives, Many Masters. And under hypnosis, people could remember not just past lives, what's known now as past life regressions, which I did do a bunch eventually, but what he called in-between life, that a person would remember not only when they died in a previous lifetime, but going to the soul realm, if you want to call it that, and everything they would experience there until they would reincarnate into the current life. And they could remember all this. And he was just, recording all his sessions. And eventually he wrote 2 books, kind of like a part 1 and part 2, where he constructs everything about this world, the soul realm, what we're doing here, how we choose a lot of what happens to us here. It's not all happenstance. It's not all pre-planned. There's some combination. How we have soul friends, not just soul mates, but a soul group that we often reincarnate with. And he just created this whole picture that really just blew my mind wide open. Like, wow, everything really made sense for the first time ever. And I was able to go back and process my family and all the challenges I had, particularly with my dad, through this, we now call it the soul view. And this is one of the things we'll do in coaching. If somebody's spiritually aligned with this, is we'll deal with the physical issues, the emotional issues, the consciousness issues. But if somebody's open, we'll eventually bring in the soul view and have them process difficult, let's say, childhoods, whatever happened, through that view. And that almost always brings peace and understanding.
Wow.
So that book is kind of about that journey. And in particular, in the middle of the book, one of the biggest games, if you will, that we human beings play are being the victim or being the villain or being the hero who gets involved. It's kind of the human triangle, you will. So I deal with a few chapters on each of these dynamics and how this connects with the soul view of life.
Wow. Is that the three doors? The victim,
That's
the
the three
villain,
doors
and the
to
hero?
the soul. Yeah.
Ooh, I love that. I really love that. And I do believe that. I believe that we have soul family, and we just have it's just those people that, you meet randomly and you're like, hold on, I know you. I don't know how I know you, but I know you. And like, I totally get you. We've been down this road before, and it's so comfortable, and we can choose what role you're going to play in each life with me. And I completely believe all of that. And, I love that, because that is so true. In each life, you may do something different. And I think we choose. I think we have free will, but I think we ultimately have a desire to learn something in each life. We're working on evolution of our soul, right? To reach the highest level and understanding spiritually. And it is hard for our human brains to wrap around this. And I've been around people or talked to people who are still in that religious mindset, and they're like, I rebuke what you're saying, and I do not believe in anything. And that's okay. I'm okay with that. But I having been at that point and now having more understanding, I'm also a medium. I'm a spirit guide medium. So I've done readings for people and given knowledge that I had absolutely zero way of knowing these things about people's soul family and their spirit teams. And so for me, I have the proof. It's hard to explain to someone if they don't have the proof. We're sort of I'll believe it when I see it. Humans are just, I need the proof, we're very scientific, 3-dimensional. So I think that's absolutely fabulous. So a journey through religion, science, and spirituality to reveal our soul's true purpose. I have to tell you something really odd. I had to stop for a second. My dog, and my dogs are everything to me. My dog passed away right this year before Christmas. So it was about 3 months ago. And my little Chihuahua was very attached to my Aussie, and he was 11 years old when he passed. And we had him cremated, and we just moved to this house, and I have this little meditation altar over here, and I have his ashes and his little paw. The entire time we've lived here, she has never gone over there. And as we were just talking, she went over there and got up on her hind legs and was like trying to get to where his ashes are. It just blew me away. I'm like, it caught my eye, and I'm like, the timing. So I feel like that's like a combination of all of us here in this moment. But thanks for indulging me on that. But I really love that you're bringing it all together in those 3 doors: religion, science, and spirituality, to help us understand. And the victim, villain, and hero is, I think you're right. And I've never thought of it being sort of, forgive me, simplified in that way, because it really is a good way of categorizing where we are in whatever path that we're in. And I think sometimes we are partially a victim in our story in a life, and then we can go to being a hero in our lives. And so we can kind of ebb and flow, right, in our lives. So I just, I love that. So guys, you guys have to get that book. Listeners, it's by Rabbi Mark Seidler and Lynetta Avery, and it's called Three Doors to the Soul. And Lynetta also has this is neat, the 5 steps that we were talking about earlier, that she was talking about, transcending trauma, summoning love, and invoking your power. And it's called Do the Work. So tell us about that. You have a program that people can sign up for?
Yeah, there's an app that goes along with the book, so we can actually work through the book together. There's videos there and some PDFs, and it'll help you to do the exercises that are in the book, because every chapter is broken down to sharing a little bit of the trauma that I experienced, the impact it had on the rest of my life, how I did the transformation work on that aspect, on that trauma story, and then the bliss that I live now, and then tools for the reader to how to I walk them through the process of how to use the tool that I used to transform that particular thing. So there's 13 chapters, and all of it is in that format, and just writing it was transformational to use that process. I've been trying to write this story for 20 years, and I would just start rambling and going on and on. I'm like, where is this going? I'm getting tired of hearing this story. And once I found this formula, I was like, oh, I'll just share a little section of the trauma, and then the impact, and the transformation piece, then the bliss I live now. So you can see the freedom that you get when you do the work and you transform and transcend. Then you get this amazing experience of bliss, expansion, joy, more love in your life. It's just the freedom. It's worth the work. It's like, it's so worth doing it. So, and then the tools to give the reader is like, I like books that I can take home with me and get something that'll help me in my life, something practical, so that's why the book is set up in this way, so the reader can really use it in their own life, like a workbook.
Yeah. Yeah. It's practical. And then it's also therapeutic for you as well. Cause I think it's always cathartic to share our story. And as Mark said earlier, I have so much gratitude for all that I have gone through. And I always tell everyone, when you have that gratitude for all the stuff that seems so bad, then you've healed. And I think that for me is the bottom line. When I got to a point of no longer caring about anyone else's thoughts or feelings about my life, I knew I'd reached that point of loving unconditionally, finally, myself. And what would you say is the one key point that would help people? And I'm going to ask you both. Mark, I'm going to ask you, what is, just a quick summary of what is the one most important thing, if it was your elevator pitch for how to find the best relationship, what would that be?
Awareness. I would say awareness. When you talked about zooming out and become aware of, what your patterns are, and become aware of that you need to love yourself first. Because one of our little messages is, when you find yourself, then your beloved will find you.
Yes, that's it. That's it. And what I've learned about real love is that you don't lose who you are in that love. That's the key thing. If any of my
many people say that, they're like, but I lose myself in relationship.
Yeah, or they're purposely avoiding it because they think they're going to have to sacrifice themselves or compromise who they are. And we don't use any of that. We're not for any sacrifice or compromise. Not at all.
No.
Both of us, we're very similar in a lot of ways, and then we're different in some significant ways. And we totally love both aspects. We love doing all the things we do together, And we also love the individual things that we don't do together.
Yeah, like dance. Mark loves social dance, and I love yoga. And so we found there's a dance studio 10 minutes from my yoga studio. So I'll go to yoga, he'll go to dance. And then I said, well, we agreed that when he learned the dance steps, he'll bring them home and he'll teach me because I need slower paced teaching. Whereas
than they do in most studios.
Yeah, it's too fast for me. And then I get frustrated and I get even panicky that I can't get the steps right.
Yeah.
So it's not a fun experience for me. He loves it. So now he'll come home and show me how to do those dance steps.
Yes, it's embracing the differences. And the key word is embracing it and not being resentful. And every relationship I had been in that was dysfunctional was I couldn't be who I wanted to be, do the things I wanted to be. It was always whatever makes you happy. I was living life to make someone else emotionally happy and content. And that's when people say I lose myself, it's because they start living their lives, shifting their own individualism to
fit into their world.
Yes, because of the fear of losing whatever it is that love gives them. But that love doesn't give you something if it's a void, if it leaves. That's the whole thing. You should be whole together and separately.
Yeah. And if that's a real, to me, a true love is embracing all the sameness and the differences and seeing how you can both have your desires met and nobody has to compromise. Nobody has to give up their dream.
Yeah. I'll give you one example. I saw this once on a dating profile. It was really good. It was a woman speaking, and she said the man that she was looking for, they would be able to say to each other, she would say, "You keep me safe and I keep you wild."
Did you read my profile? Did you?
Was that yours?
Was that yours?
I didn't think we'd actually meet. But when I saw that, I was like, "Oh yeah," because I'm Mr. Safety,
and I'm Wild.
Miss Wild, and
which really upsets me because we could have totally gone on a double date because my husband's an engineer, so he's the safety guy and I'm the wild girl. So man, we would have had a great double date. So you need to get over to Austin and we need to do this double date.
Oh, definitely.
Well, we can still do that.
We can plan that.
We'll actually be in Texas next April for the eclipse, so maybe we'll meet up then.
Yes. Love it. I love it. Well, this has just been so much fun. And I want to definitely stay in contact with you because I think that we could definitely do stuff together and help each other out. And I just, I love it. I love like-minded people. I love when people are as passionate about it as me, because, when you've been there, done that, all you want to do is help people to avoid that.
Sure.
It's like, don't do this thing that I did. And this is how you can avoid that. I love it. I love it. So their website and where to get their books, let us know where we can find you, where our listeners can get a hold of your books and where they can come to you for some spiritual couple coaching.
Yeah. So the Soulmate Coaches is our website.
Nice. Got it.
Soulmatecoaches.com.
Yeah.
Perfect. I will have that on our I'll have
and
that
the
on your
easiest way for somebody to decide, can we help each other, is to book a discovery call right at the top of the page. We'll give them a free 20 minutes, talk about what's going on in their life and where they'd like to go. And is there any way that we can support them?
And even in that 20 minutes, we can help them have a breakthrough.
Yeah.
It can be done. It can be done in that quick of time.
Ooh, look at that. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
But I get it because I do those same thing. I do these discoveries. You can figure out a lot about people in such a short time because really when you got to get to the point, they'll list off the things that are wrong and then you can really help them. And then their paperback is available. And then there's also a mobile app, guys. I'm going to have all of that information for both those books, the mobile app and their website online on the episode. And I just want to say thank you guys so much. Now, since we always talk about heavy stuff on I Never Knew, I always like to end it with a fun a fun little segment that I do called Take My Money. But I think I'm going to change it up a little bit since you guys are nomad travelers. I would like to know the weirdest thing you've seen on your travels.
The weirdest?
Yes, the weirdest, oddest, craziest. Weird.
Oh, I would have to say that was the previous solar eclipse.
Oh,
We
wow.
went up to
That was
Madras,
wild.
Oregon. This was like 6
Yeah.
years ago. And we went there to be right in the path of totality of the eclipse. And have you ever been in a solar eclipse? A full?
When I was in grade school, I remember we had a full solar eclipse.
So this was so otherworldly. We were up on a hilltop, and it was like somebody took a dimmer switch and just started lowering the lighting. And it was actually in the high desert, and it got cold like really quick. Like we had to get blankets. Like it must have dropped
10
like
degrees.
10, 20 degrees.
Yeah.
And it was like everything got dim, but you still couldn't look at the sun. You know, we had the special sunglasses on, but the moment the sun was fully covered, we took it off, and you looked up in the sky and you were like, is this our planet?
It was like a different planet.
It was so otherworldly to look at the sun.
And everybody, the reaction from all the crowds
Everybody
was
like,
everybody was going, oh.
Right? I remember, I think I was in 4th grade and we had to make these special little boxes where you look in
Look
it, but then you
down,
couldn't look
right.
at the sun.
Yeah.
And I remember my little 9-year-old brain sort of like feeling like it was weird. And like you said, it was like being on a different planet. I pictured like what it would be like on Mars or Jupiter, you know, my little 9-year-old brain. But for it to be dark in the middle of the day was, it was creepy. It was actually creepy. You know?
And you know what really impressed me? The moment totality ended and there was this much of the sun that peeked out, it was so blinding, you couldn't look.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like the tiniest sliver, and was like, oh my God, I have to put the sunglasses back on. It really gave you a sense of the energy of the sun, that little fraction was too much to look at. And it was nothing.
Wow.
Yeah. And then it was like somebody
the
was
lights.
raising a dimmer switch.
All
of a sudden, everything around us, it was just like,
Oh,
it was like, wow. I mean, because we were looking, you know, you'd see 50 miles in every direction in the desert. And just to see the light go up and down that way, it was like, wow.
it's so neat when things are out of the norm, when things happen that like that are sort of out of the norm, even like the pandemic is. I think it's almost a way of sort of waking us up and saying, don't take life for granted. Don't take anything for granted. Don't even take the sun for granted. You know, in a solar eclipse, it's like,
I know. So that's why next April we'll be in South Texas, and it's going to go all the way across the U.S. So anybody who's listening, don't miss it. It is
amazing.
Just such an otherworldly experience.
Yeah, and it won't happen again for another,
I don't know, 20, 30 years
20,
till the
30
next
years.
one. So
Yeah.
don't wait.
Yeah,
It's
right.
worth it.
Enjoy it and get it now. Well, that explains why it was like a long time ago. Because you know, I'm only 30. Just kidding.
You're just a kid.
I'm a nifty.
Yeah, we're only
50.
29 each.
What do they say? 29 with so many years of experience. That's fantastic. And I wish you guys lots of safety and fun on your adventures. And I love that you're just embracing life and living it to the fullest. And everyone who's looking for love, you find that love for yourself, and then you attract that perfect person for you. And it's amazing how it comes to you, and you stop the search and it finds you. And I'm living testament, and so is Mark and Lynetta. So thank you both so much. This was so much fun. What a way to end my week. I'm so
Maureen,
thrilled.
you have been absolutely phenomenal. We are
Amazing.
so glad to
Thank
be
you.
be with you and be on your show.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
virtual hug.
I know.
Virtual hug.
And we'll connect. Maybe do that double date when we're in Austin.
You better believe it.
We'll
better
look it up.
believe it. We're there. We have like a museum, the Weird Museum. So I'll take you to the Weird Museum. And I
perfect.
live in front of a nature preserve, so my backyard is just all nature and you love nature. So
Love
yeah,
nature.
Beautiful.
you guys come and stay with us and be our guests, and we'll just have a wonderful time. So
Sweet.
love you,
Lovely.
Mucho. Thank you so much.
Thank
I'm
you.
so grateful to the universe for aligning us. So guys, that week for this episode, and you know where to find me. I also do relationship coaching, dating coaching, self-esteem, and self-confidence coaching. I'm at Maureen or lifecoachmaureen.com. My books are on Amazon. My dog is more enlightened than I am, and my dog is my relationship coach, which has tips and things for relationships as well, and parts of my story. And last and not least, we do have my doggiseverything.net, which is a boutique that has all your healthy treats for your puppies and little fun safety things and apparel, all that kind of good stuff. We're adding new items every day. So please go check us out. Thank you all for being here. I love you all. I hope you enjoyed Mark and Lynetta as much as I did. For any comments, anyone who wants to be a guest, or you want to get a hold of Mark and Lynetta through me, you can do that as well. So just go to my Life Coach Maureen page and there's comments, and I'd be happy to address every single comment we get. We are at all 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. So let's keep that little energy momentum going. I'm really grateful for that. So I love you all. Please take care of each other, take care of yourselves, and most of all, take care of your furry babies. Have an awesome week. Until next episode. Thanks, guys.
Thank you for tuning in to the I Never Knew podcast. If you found today's episode inspiring and educational, please be sure to follow, subscribe, and spread the word. The more people that join the Inc. community, the more it can develop and influence others as we work together for a healthier and brighter future. Until next time.